So yeah, it sounds like they would be available to proceeding that way. So and we budgeted, so kind of going over mostly budget.
Oh, never really.
And
New business, police chief employment. Chad, will you give us a synopsis of this?
Yes, as a matter of fact, here we did have a bit of a problem technically. Can we go back to the visitor section and try that again, please?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
We'll go back to public communications. I'm not going to read the disclosure again, but if there's someone who.
We're good there. That's just noise coming.
Okay, so we're good to.
Yeah, was there any, so in regards to us being in the visitor section, was there anybody online that wanted to speak prior to the next portion of the agenda?
Okay, come here. We're not on. It just says my name.
I reviewed it. No, nothing, sir.
Nothing. Well, then we'll still move on to new business and the police chief employment. Chad, will you read the synopsis for us, please?
Yeah, my pleasure, sir. The city of Girard has been working with GMP consultants on our search for a new chief of police since the retirement of Jeff Bowman on April 1st, 2023. The city council narrowed semi-finalist candidate selections. City staff held a meet the candidates reception for the two final candidates. And by the way, we had, I think, a total of 11 apply. Joshua Gregory and John Walker, and a third candidate who withdrew for family reasons. On May 9th, both finalists were interviewed by the city council and an additional panel of community members and city staff. This special meeting is being held for the council to discuss potentially hiring one of the candidates. Your options here are: motion to approve the hiring of a named preferred candidate, reopen the search, or do nothing. Staff has no recommendation in this item. This is a council's decision, as the chief of police does serve at the pleasure of the council. Financial analysis: the proposed salary range for the city of Girard police chief is stated at $76,000 to $106,000 during recruitment.
Thank you, Chad. Is there a motion to select one candidate over another so we can go into discussion?
I move that the motion to approve hiring of a named preferred candidate.
Can you name the preferred candidate?
Joshua Gregory.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Now, council, before you, you do have the letter of intent of offer with the details of what that offer would be as it is here now.
Right, and I personally would like to discuss this offer. So Chad, will you read it for us?
I will.
Since we've had a motion.
Thank you, sir. So this is on behalf of the city of Girard. I'm very excited and pleased to inform you that you're the council's preferred candidate for the position of police chief. This letter was constituted as a letter of intent, will outline the general parameters of an employment agreement between you and the city leading to your selection as police chief. The terms of this letter are conditional upon your successful completion of a a background investigation, including a physiological and medical evaluation. The employment package consists of the following terms, conditions, and provisions. In regards to employment, the employee of this person will be an employee of the city of Gerhart, serving at the pleasure of the council. A benefit that was added was a severance for termination without cause, 2 months of salary and benefits. You'll also agree to provide the city with 30 days notice if you choose to resign your position. Salary. The base salary was negotiated between GMP, myself, and the potential candidate at $100,952. Now, just to clarify that as well, we can go into the questions afterwards. Professional development, a city paid membership to the Oregon Association Chiefs of Police and the International Association Chiefs of Police, and a paid attendance to the OACP and IACP conferences as budgeted funds allow. Performance evaluations will be conducted after 6 months and 1 year of employment. Thereafter, performance evaluations will be considered annually conducted. Vacation, this is another adjustment. You will start on day one with a vacation bank of 80 hours vacation, and then will accrue as per the employee handbook. Sick leave. Sick leave will accrue at 8 hours per month. You will start on day one with a sick leave bank of 40 hours. Now on the backside, auto allowance, you'll be provided with a take-home vehicle. That'll be one of the police vehicles that we have. Compensatory time, you will earn and accrue comp time on hours worked and earn in excess of your 40-hour work week. The maximum hours in your comp time back will be capped at 40 hours. That's typical for all employees.
Per
Comp time.
40 hours per, no.
That's as much as we can accomplish. So rather than taking overtime, I'm the only employee that doesn't necessarily do this. Rather than taking overtime, you can take have up to 40 hours of time off. After that, they have to take the overtime.
Year?
No, at once. So if they have 40 and they use 20 of it, they can gain 20 back up to 40, but they can't have any more. So it's 40 at one time. Other benefits, all other benefits is outlined by the city's personnel manual. And the rest of this is the above terms. Please sign below and return at your earliest convenience. I will let you know I had a quick chat with our attorney, and I had an in-depth conversation with Ms. Justine about this. Just made some very minor changes due to the edits, but I think so far that's what we have.
Is it necessary that we give them 40 hours sick leave just to start off? Since he occurs 8 hours a month?
It's not absolutely necessary. I mean, this is your agreement to make with this person. Once we take this agreement with any edits and changes you make, we'll present that to the candidate, and the candidate will decide whether or not they want to work here at the city of Gerhart. The thought process is, and through some of the conversations, is that the candidate currently has sick leave available to them in their current career. And by coming over to a new career, that it would be good to have that ability to be able to take 40 hours, and that's what they desire. It is on the table. You are welcome to make any adjustments that you like. But that's what we've talked about as far as what I think that we think the candidate, the conversations with the candidate as well, would accept.
Did he ask for that?
I'm not sure on that. That was between GMP and the candidate. The GMP highly recommended it, so I'm assuming so, but I don't know the answer to that question.
I think he's got just a ton of sick leave banked up in Seaside. You know, so I mean, basically, as soon as he turns his resignation letter in, well, then he's just. Yeah, so this is just kind of a carrot.
It doesn't add any expense necessarily, other than in the conversation earlier that if because it's all wrapped up into the salary, if they were gone for an additional week due to illness, of course, we want to do that for the person if possible, but then we would need to cover that position, so that may be through overtime, depending on the time of year, that might be an additional expense. January, I might think differently. But if it's in the summertime, it would be an additional expense.
Mhm.
If I can just interject, I think that, hiring somebody at this level, this is probably the minimum that I would request if I were put in this position. In fact, some of these things that he's, I think we could, and I think he could have asked for more, or at least I would have asked for more, some of these things. So I think this is a very good agreement for us, from my perspective.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I would like to know about the vacation. Do they have to use up their vacation within the year, or can they carry it over to future years?
They can't carry it over, although I have made a couple of extensions for a week or two, depending on circumstances, they need to use it.
Can we do a correction in the, under the compensatory time, in your comp time, it should say thank, not back.
Oh, thank you.
And then, in the first one, it's correct, but I think you were, while you were reading, he's still gonna have to go through a psychological and medical evaluation.
Where does he go for that?
I believe it's an outfit out of either Salem or Portland that conducts these for most of the police departments around here. And then as far as the background check, we will probably work through another agency locally that hasn't worked with the candidate before. That the candidate hasn't worked at before.
All right, so you're not able to take their psychological and medical background checks from the city of Seaside? We have to start over.
Yeah, that would be prudent.
Who pays for that?
We do. I'm not sure what it costs,
Is it a lot?
but it's not.
I think, again, I'm recommending that we go with this because this seems like a very equitable agreement for us and for him. And I would remind everybody that he still will be making far less than the police chiefs around us. And yet he is essentially going to be filling two positions on our department because he will be a patrol officer and a manager. So I think this is a good value for us. And I think I did warn everybody in the beginning that we weren't paying very much. So I'm not surprised at all by this. I think this
Is
is,
he taking a cut and pay by coming to us?
Not entirely sure. It's not legal to ask those kind of
No.
questions anymore in the Oregon law. Indications are it's similar.
yeah, he should be making slightly more or more hopefully, but his responsibility is going to grow significantly.
So-
But he gets to work in pure heart.
That's true for us.
Well, I think that he's got, I mean, like he said, he lived here for 4 years and he really likes the town. The reason he moved out of town was he just wanted some acreage for his kids to play with. So.
And I think he said approximately mileposts between 2 and 4.
Just east of the rock pit out there and just this side of quarter.
So as far as performance evaluations, as far as I can determine, I don't think Jeff ever had any. Because I know we are his boss, not you.
Correct.
So we are the ones that will give the police chief an evaluation.
With the help of staff. And
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
setting the expectation in this.
So did Jeff ever get an evaluation? Do you know
I
of?
think a few people came in and talked to him about a few things, but no, not a
No
full
written
on.
one? Okay,
No.
okay.
Any more discussion?
The only question that I have on this is we don't have any kind of a probationary period outlined.
Correct.
I believe it's inferred with the 6-month evaluation, but you're right, we don't have, he's on probation for 6 months. But I believe in our policy, personnel policy, everyone starts at a 6-month probation period.
That is correct when it comes to some of the benefits and that, but that really, I think, Justine, are you able to?
I don't remember reading that about probationary period.
Yeah, but essentially we're an at-will employer, so you're able to make a decision anytime you see fit.
Yeah, but that would make the difference on whether you pay him 2 months of salary if we,
That's without cost.
but if you're on probation for 6 months, then, and you know, at month 5, you say this isn't, we say this isn't working out, then we're not obligated to do the 2 months salary? I don't know how that's.
If you add in a condition of probation,
Well, what if there's a termination with cause?
then they would not receive that salary unless the city council wanted to make a change.
So if we didn't like him, so rather than say, we're not gonna give you a cause, so you get 2 months fund, we'll just say, here's a cause, we don't like you.
That would be up to the council.
All right.
That would end in litigation probably.
Yeah, I don't think we can-
Well, I
this
was-
one there.
I knew that. I wasn't being specific, but we could come up with a cause. All right.
Thank you for setting up that. Anyway, is there any more discussion?
Well, can we modify this and ask to include a 6-month probationary period if that's what our standard is for everybody else, and just make sure that it's clear, or
Well-
would that, what does that do?
You could.
We would need the personnel policy book, and we need to find if it says everyone goes on a 6-month.
Correct. Peter, are you online?
I am online, and you guys are making me a little nervous.
Okay.
Not too nervous.
So, yeah, he's here to also help answer the questions. Peter does have our handbook and this offer as well.
Well, apparently we have.
So I've actually reviewed your employee handbook, so I can answer questions related to this. If you have a copy of the employee handbook in front of you, on page 16 is where it's not described as probationary, it's described as introductory. But all new employees are hired into an introductory training period that generally lasts no less than 90 days. The introductory period is an extension of the employee selection process. During this period, you are considered to be in training under observation and evaluation by your manager, in this case, the manager being the city council. Evaluation of your adjustment to work tasks, conduct and other work rules, attendance and job responsibilities will be considered during the introductory period. This period gives you an opportunity to demonstrate satisfactory performance for the position, also provides an opportunity to determine if your knowledge, skills, and abilities and the requirements of the position match. It is also an opportunity for you to decide if the city of Deerheart meets your expectations as an employer. At the end of the introductory period, the city of Deerheart will decide whether to extend the introductory period, move you to regular full-time in this position status, or terminate your employment. So the city of Deerheart may terminate the employment relationship during the introductory period for any lawful reason. So obviously we can't violate someone's rights, but if it's just clear that this employee is not a good fit, then that's specifically called out as a reason for terminating employment. But it is a 90-day period, not a 6-month period, though you do have the ability to extend it another 90 days if you were so inclined.
Peter? Peter? It's Preston Dever. Okay, so it just sounds to me like, you know, the employee's handbook or the, whatever it is for regular employees. We're hiring a chief of police. That's a little higher position than a regular employee.
Right. I mean,
does say all new employees. So it would be an employee whether they are because certain positions are listed in your charter. So that those are employees as well. So I think that by its clear language, this would be covered. And unless there are, the way that it's also set up is if you want to do anything that would deviate from the employee handbook, then both the city manager and the council are able to do that. But it has to be in writing, and it has to be signed. It specifies city administrator and city council, but it says signed by City of Gearhart. So how I would interpret that is, one, it's a written requirement, and it would need to be done with the knowledge of both the city manager and the city council. And I believe the reason for that is there was a city manager prior to Chad that often seemed to do things on a kind of a handshake basis. So there would be a record of whether it was payments or something else, the city making those payments, but there was no written confirmation of those things happening. And so I believe that the intent was that all parties would be aware of, I don't want to call it a side deal because that's not what it is, but all parties would be aware that there was a deviation from what would normally be called out in the employee handbook, and that would be in writing. And in my interpretation, which of course I'm entitled to less deference than you guys are, but in my interpretation, this letter stating the employment terms, and again, that kind of sick leave, some sick leave up front, some vacation up front, those are deviations. And so because they're in writing and because we're having this meeting and everyone's aware of them, then we would have met those obligations that are called out.
Okay.
So we've got like 4 department heads in this city.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that maybe in the future, we might handle those department heads with a little different scenario than just a regular employee.
Yeah, and I think that the way this is set up is that you certainly are allowed to do that. You just need to put it in writing, and everybody needs to, because it's the job market or getting qualified candidates because of the housing shortage on the coast is becoming challenging. And so it's likely that any department head you're hiring, you might need to negotiate some additional something that they wouldn't normally be entitled to get them in. And this employee handbook gives you the ability for you to do that on a case-by-case basis. Just the city council and the city manager both need to be aware of it, and it needs to be in writing. So, for instance, you could say you don't want a probationary period. You could put that in writing. That would be a deviation from your handbook, but because it's in writing and because everybody signed off on it, that will be proper. If you wanted to do that, you really have a wide latitude to do what you need to do in order to get somebody hired.
I think you answered my question. Thank you, Peter. And for the record, I think we all have a lot of confidence in Mr. Gregory. I don't think that anybody here anticipates having to terminate without cause.
And also the mayor, talking about the 6-month review period, that's an opportunity for us to sit down and make sure things are going correctly. So,
Yeah. Well, I would also suggest that at the end of 90 days, I mean, that's implied in that document, is that at the end of 90 days, somebody will have a sit down with him and give him some feedback on how he's doing, what he's doing well, what he could improve on, and whether or not the 90 days is going to go away or whether we're going to extend it or whether the 90 days is sufficient. That would be the professional way to approach it.
So let me just be clear about this, so. Are we saying that we're going to put the 90-day introductory period in there or not?
Peter's saying it's covered by the handbook, but if we want to deviate from the 90 days, we would have to include it in here.
Okay, but probably needs to. We need to make sure that he knows that's what's in the handbook, right?
They have to sign the handbook.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we could give them maybe give them a copy before we sign it, but. Cause there's the 90-day introductory, but there's the 6-month evaluation, because there's a section on performance, and it says when you hire or you're promoted after 6 months, you'll be evaluated with full evaluation.
You see, my objection is, I mean, for any other employee in the city, you know, I think that works. But for a department head, I don't think it works.
Well, that would be something that we would need to discuss.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, the horse is already out of the barn right now, but, you know, I think in the future that we should have something that specifically, you know, is geared towards department heads.
Justine and I have been, mostly Justine, have been collecting items that, you know, we are looking at for future changes in the handbook, and at that opportunity, we'll put that in as well to discuss.
Okay.
And I'm not familiar with the creation of the handbook. It was before I came here, but it was right when I came here. So this is a new document.
It is quite new.
It's new to everybody, all the employees, to the city council, to the way that it's a completely new process.
And we're still working on the bugs. Lots of.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, okay, so, you know, we had this process where we hired, you know, the headhunters. Okay, and we had so many applications and everything like that. And we're down to, you know, we were down to ultimately just 2. So, you know, we interviewed those guys and you know, we made our selection. And then, you know, based upon how we felt about the interviews and the background and everything else like that. So now he's gonna go through, you know, a psych evaluation, he's gonna go through whatever else there is and everything like that. I mean, I just think that, you know, if I were applying for a position and all of a sudden at the 11th hour, somebody said to me, well, you know, now we're gonna put you on probation as the police chief, you know, for 3 months or 4 months or whatever the hell it happens to be. It'd ruffle my feathers a little bit.
I think the council's got the tools that they need to be able to handle any situation that might arise with the employment of any individual here in Gerhart. So you have the ability to review at any time. If there is an issue, you have ability to review an employee as well. And then you have the ability to terminate that employee at any time. So you have options and tools in the toolbox. I think that this is an interesting conversation for the city of Gerhart, because we don't have this kind of turnover. A lot of other cities have set up these processes. It says, well, what do you do when you're searching for a police chief? Well, we haven't done that in 40 years. So this is something that we're kind of working out through, but I think you have the protections through this document, the handbook, and Oregon law that will give you all the options you need. But the whole grand scheme and the goal is the council and Dana Gould says, we've got a good group of candidates. Your choice is important, and I think that we can just rely on the fact that we've got a pretty good guy, but we'll keep an eye on him, and he'll keep an eye on us.
Well, you know, these are good points to discuss because it is a new process for us and different concerns are for different people. And I think it's a valid, every point is valid in doing this because it is new. And it may be that sometime in the future, we'll have to do something like this again. But this is a good starting point in the learning situation. Having said that, is there any other points of discussion? No? I would entertain a motion.
I already did. one.
Yeah. I don't know if we did.
Yeah, I think we already. have
Oh,
first and a
I'm
second.
sorry, excuse me, we are, aren't we?
And Dana seconded it.
Yes, she did. Thank you for shaking my tree. All right, well, all those in favor of sending the letter of intent to Joshua, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Unanimous. Having done all that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Unless there's something else someone wants to say. Hearing none, a motion to adjourn.
I hope we adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
What I will tell you,